All right, this problem says calculate GB and G prime B, where G is the inverse of F, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so here's your function F. We got to calculate this, and we have to find that. Let's go straight to that, because within this, you're going to have to do this anyways. So our formula, the inverse function G, the derivative of it, is going to equal 1 over F prime of G of X. And so if we take this one step farther, we know that B is 4, so that's what you're going to plug in for X. So we're actually looking for G prime of 4 equals 1 over F prime of G of 4. Okay. All right, so what we have to do is we have to find two things. We have to find the inverse of F, and I'm sorry, not the inverse of F. We have to find the derivative of F, F prime, and we have to find G of 4. So I want to find G of 4 first. That is actually, when I'm helping people, like that's the thing that they're getting stuck on the most, which makes sense. It's kind of different. And I don't like the way I wrote that. So let's see, 4. Okay, so we're looking for the G of 4 first. Now, if I had a table of values like x and f of x, it would be like, let's say this one was like 1, 3, and then I don't know, 10 and 12. And then I had its inverse right next to it, the x values and the g of x values. Okay, the x and the y's, because they're inverses, just essentially they switch. So the 3 and the 12 would be under the x instead of the y, and the 1 and the 10 would be right there. And so what's happening? The x's and the y's are just switching. You know, when you look at inverse functions, that's what's happening. So when we take a look at this, we try to use that concept to help us find what G of 4 is, because we don't know what G of x is. In fact, if you try to find it, it's going to be really, really difficult or impossible. All right, so we have to use this concept right here, the inverse concept, to try to help us find what G of 4 is. So what does that look like? All right, so if I have, let's say for this function right here, I'm plugging in 4, which I am. I'm plugging in 4. What would I get right here? Okay, that's the question. We want to know what we get right there. Well, if I think about its inverse, this 4 would be right here, under the y's, right? It wouldn't be the x anymore, it would be the y. And then this would be the number that I'm looking for, okay? So if I can find this using f of x, I can find this. I can find G of 4. So let's do that. We're going to take 4 and sub out f of x and put it in right there to solve it. So we have 4 equals the square root of x to the second power plus 6x. Okay, to get rid of the square root, we square both sides. We get 16x squared plus 6x. And then we have x squared plus 6x minus 16 equals 0. We have a quadratic, so we make it equal to 0. And then we pray and pray and pray and hope that that is factorable. And it is. So we can go x plus 8 and x minus 2. Okay, and then we get two solutions. What are my two solutions? We have x equals 2 and negative 8. Now one of these, this happens most of the time, especially when you're dealing with inverses. When you're dealing with inverses, you can't have two solutions. The function has to be 1-to-1. So what they do is to get by that, they define the domain. And so this is for all x's greater than or equal to 0. So which one of these is not an answer? Yeah, obviously, right? So negative 8 doesn't satisfy our condition, but 2 does. And so that means I can put 2 right here, which means I can put it right there. So now, do we know what G of 4 is? Yeah. What is it? It's dos. Okay, so now I can rewrite this guy right here. Let's see, I'm just going to scribble him out. So I'm going to scribble this guy out and write 2. So now this is all I have to do. I have to go 1 over f prime of 2. So I have to find f prime and plug in 2. So let's find f prime of this. Okay, so let's see. We're going to start with, well, let's see. For f of x, I'm going to start with something raised to the 1/2 power because that's easier to work with. We have x squared plus 6x. So we're going to have to do the chain rule because we have a function inside of the function. Our outside function is this 1/2. Our inside function is the x squared plus 6x. So we're going to drop the 1/2 We have x squared plus 6x inside. That's a chain rule. And we take 1 away from 1/2. Chain rule says now you multiply times the derivative of the inside. So what's the derivative of that inside? 2x plus 6. And don't forget to put parentheses around that because there's a plus sign there. You want to make sure you stay true and don't break any laws there. All right. I'm just going to leave it like that, and let's throw it on the denominator right here. Actually, let's just plug in the 2. Let's see what we get when we plug in 2. So we have f prime, and we're plugging in 2 right here. We have 1/2, and I'm going to plug in something right there, and then I'm going to plug in something right there, and then I have this negative 1/2 right there, and I'm going to take that and go 2 times something right there. Well, I got to plug in 2s to all those, so here we go. 2, 2, 2. All right, here we go. What is 2 squared?
4.
Yeah. Okay, so we need a different color. That's going to be 4, and that's going to be 12. What is 12 plus 4? 16. So let's write out what we got here. We got a lot of crossing out going on. We have 16 raised to the negative 1/2 power times, that's going to be 4 plus 6, so that's going to be 10. All right, so to get rid of this negative exponent, we're going to put him on the bottom with this 2. So it's going to be 1 over 2, 16 to the positive 1/2 power. What is 1/2 power the same as? Square root. So the square root of 16 is 4, so we actually have a 1 over 8 times 10. So we have 1 over 8 times 10. What do we get? Yep, 5 over 4. That's your answer. Thank you. You guys caught that. So all I did was plug in the 2 right there, and that's what I got. But I totally forgot. This is on the bottom of this fraction right here. So this equals 1 over 5 over 4. And so it'd be 1 times the reciprocal of that, because we're dividing. So that's just going to be 4 over 5. Okay, that's our answer.